You're still muted, Judy, and I'm not.
Before I ask for questions, um, I would like to first thank you, Todd, for your very honest and human talk. I think everyone here has, whatever here means, everyone here has gone through something like you're going through, with or without a brain injury. Um, I know for myself, about 15 years after I started practice, I just stopped. I just stopped cold. And it was really interesting. And as Todd said, my direction hadn't changed, but I just stopped practicing. And I made all kinds of excuses. My son was 12 years old. He really needed me as a mom. I couldn't go to the Zen Center. He needed me to go for babysitters and stuff like that. I made all these stories up in my head. Um, but um, I stopped practicing at home, which there was no excuse for. I couldn't make an excuse for myself. I just couldn't bring myself to practice. It was really interesting. And then after about a year of this, Stan, who most of you know is my husband and also my co-teacher here, Zen Master Bon Hae, Stan got really upset, and he started to try to talk me into practicing, and finally I said to him, if you keep asking me to practice, I'll never practice again. And then one day, after about a year and a half, I quietly at home, when he wasn't around, I started practicing. And then after about 3 or 4 or 5, 6 months of this, I said, I've been practicing. Let's go to the Zen Center. And I'm really grateful that this happened to me because it keeps me from judging people who don't practice. I know what it's like. And I had no compelling reason to not practice. I just simply didn't practice. I don't know why. I have some advice for people who find themselves in situations where they find it difficult to practice, which is, and I heard this from someone else. I forget. It was probably Tim Lurch or Barry Briggs. I forget who I heard this from. And they, in turn, had heard it from Jacob Pearl. And what this advice is to touch the Dharma formally every day. And that might be as simple as standing still in a room and saying the four great vows. It might be as simple as doing 3 prostrations. It might be as simple as sitting for 5 minutes. It might be as simple as doing all those 3 things together. But in some way, to touch the Dharma formally every day, just touch it. If you can't do anything more, just do that. And when Todd talked about our direction, so that helps keep our direction. That reminds us of what our direction is. And so if you find yourself going through that, I recommend that. And yeah, don't beat yourself up. It's funny because I see the thing of when my mind goes away and then I realize it went away and then I bring it back. Instead of beating myself over the head about it, it's like, oh, wow, I get to notice my mind. This is really great. And then bring it back. Because that's what practice does. If we practice always in anuttara samyak sambodhi, complete perfect enlightenment, what good is it? But it's noticing our minds getting wrapped up in things and then bringing them back. That's the thing that's helpful. Because then in real life, when we find our minds starting to spin around, and then we can notice it and go, oh, and then we know how to bring it back. So, no problem. Yeah. So thank you very much for your talk. Yeah, these are strange times, aren't they? So, are there any questions? And yes, Jennifer.
Yeah, speaking of this being strange times, and I don't know what my question actually is, but I was talking with one of my former students yesterday who's been having a really hard time because she has kind of dysfunctional parents and she's an only child and they're all being very good and staying in the house, and I think they're getting very tired of each other, and and she made a comment that 2020 is winning. And can you talk a little bit about, like for me yesterday morning, I do pretty well being cooped up, but I was really starting to, I think after hearing that John Lewis had died Friday night right before I went to bed, and it's just, there's so much. I've been home with my husband and my cats for 4.5 months now. And like I said, I don't know what my question is, but do you have any thoughts about how we break that when our mind starts getting in this, getting tightened down and really getting enmeshed in all of this crap that's going on right now? All these politicians are playing games with my career, for instance.
You're playing games with our lives. Yeah. So, what I find helpful is to remember that it's not about me. So, if I start getting overwhelmed by the specifics of my life, and then I find it helpful to broaden my vision, because we're all going through some version of the same thing. And some of us are lucky to be with people that we not only love but get along with, which at this point is more important than loving somebody, is getting along with them. And some of us are unlucky enough to be with people that it's difficult to be with. Some of us are really unlucky in being with people who abuse us, either psychologically or physically. Some of us, many of us, are alone, except for the Zoom screen and going to the store. And sometimes that's a blessing, and sometimes it's not such a blessing. And but whatever we're going through, we are so much not alone. Whatever any one of us is going through right now, there are not just millions, but hundreds of millions and probably billions of people going through something very close to what we are going through now. And I think that keeping that larger vision, this is when Si-Hoi Lau, who later became Zen Master Subang Sunu, became a monk, and then he became a Zen Master. And originally he was a sculptor from Hawaii, Si-Hoi Lau. Anyway, and he was a really great guy, and he wrote a letter to Zen Master Sung San. He said, "What is the fast road to Zen?" And Zen Master Sung San replied, "Not for me." And that doesn't mean, oh, it's not for me, it's for someone else. That's not what it means. Because I remember telling that to my brother, and he said, "Oh, then I don't have to do it." I said, no, that's not what it means. What it means is my life is not about myself. We are not separate. We're intimately connected. We're intimately connected not only to people we don't know, but to creatures we don't know. We're intimately connected with this entire universe. And it's very important to not keep that in mind, because you should never keep anything in mind, right? Everything. But to recall that, to look at it. When we find ourselves overwhelmed, oh, I'm not alone. That's very important. Yeah. Our government, in its infinite wisdom, executed 3 people this week, right? Even they were not alone. So we have to remember that. So thank you for your question. I want to say, before I say, are there any other questions? I can't see everyone on the screen, so don't wait for my permission. Just unmute yourself and start talking, because I might not see you if you have a question.
Hello, this is Rusty.
Okay, I want to say that Jamie is next. Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, Jamie. Oh,
That's fine, because you were about the same time, and I happened to see both of you. Isn't that amazing? Okay.
my apologies, Jamie. my question is, what can the practice teach us about how we make decisions?
So the practice can't teach us anything.
Okay.
Practice just opens our minds and allows us to observe, and opens our hearts and allows us to connect. That's what the practice does. And you will make your decisions. And it's not even clear to me that decisions are really decisions. You know, we think we have much more control than we really have. There's the very famous experiment where and I'm sort of looking at Don now because he knows all the literature and this stuff, where they wire up people, they wire up to the part of the brain that is in charge of motion, and they the deal is that someone is supposed to, I forget the details, but someone is supposed to reach for something and on some kind of cue or something like that, or make a choice, whatever it is. There's some kind of action that's supposed to happen. And what they discovered was that the muscles of the hand started firing before the neurons in the brain did. So the person is saying, I have decided to move my hand. But the hand was already starting to move on a molecular level before the brain, as far as anyone could figure out, was telling the hand to move. So it's not clear that we are the agents of our fate in the way we think we are. So the whole notion of choice, it's like a real gross simplification. What is actually happening is much more complex, and it's something that we can never fully understand. We can't fully understand anything in this universe because our mind has to oversimplify in order for us to function. Our mind does not see, very simple, our eyes don't see all the colors that possibly exist. You know, certain birds, certain insects see many more colors than we do, and certain animals see fewer colors than we do. So you could have an argument with the dog about the color green if the dog could talk. But I think, I don't know, do dogs see black and white? There's some common animal that sees in black and white. You know, they do. So if we really accept that the world doesn't operate the way we think it operates, and then just observe things, just observe as things unfold. That's the best thing I have to tell. And don't over categorize. You know, my teacher always said, I don't teach Buddhism. This is Zen Master Sung-san. I don't teach Buddhism. I only teach don't know. And he didn't explain it in the way I'm explaining with scientific experiments and stuff like that. Although when he was a kid, he was going to be an engineer. He had that kind of mind, but he didn't explain it that way. He just, hit don't know, don't know, don't know, don't know, which might be better because I'm hitting don't know. I'm saying, oh, you should don't know because of this knowledge I just gave you, you know, which is kind of contradicting itself. But yeah, this don't know is very strong. And when we sit, this don't know awakens. And then we look at this world through this don't know. And this don't know is this, you know, if you've ever seen like a really, really, really small baby, they don't have language, they don't have categories, they don't know what they're looking at. It's just this big don't know. And they're taking it all in. This is not a don't know that pushes things away. It's not, well, I don't know. I don't care. It's this giant whoa that takes it in. So make our minds like that. Our minds that are just so open and that just take everything in. And then don't worry about how do I make this decision. The decision will make itself. And we, whoever this we is, because that's another question, right? What is this I? Who is this I that's making this decision, right? That's another rabbit hole you can go down. Or you can just look at it, wow, what am I? What am I? You can just look at that question. And then it unfolds. You don't have to worry about it. Okay? Thank you. Okay, Jamie, quick before someone else asks something.
I just have a bunch of comments, really. Maybe you can add to it or whatever, but you can hear me just fine, right? Okay. Uh, you just described kind of how it is, how I feel actually when I go out in the woods all the time. It's kind of like you're like a baby. You don't really know what's actually out there. It's always you just look and just like what is this all the time, right? And so I go out there all the time. That's basically my go-to to clear things up. Just it's very peaceful and um, I don't know. But all these other things everyone's talking about things that you stop doing or I used to beat myself up all the time. Um, Probably because I was really isolated for a long time. And then when you get yourself out into the world and you start trying to, I don't know, fit in or just, go with the flow of things, you often question everything that you're doing, if it's this way or should be that way. So a lot of attention is always drawn to yourself or internally, like if you stop doing something. Um, and one thing that always comes to my mind all the time uh, is something you said, just everything's no problem. Everything's it's no problem. That's kind of what happens when I catch myself kind of giving myself a hard time, maybe. And I think that's natural. We all kind of do that a little bit, and but uh, I just always remind myself of that. Just everything's okay, everything's no problem. As far as myself, because I know I'm going to make mistakes, or I know I'm not going to. I definitely know I don't do things the way, like, I'm out of the box.
Let me interrupt you because we're running out of time a little bit, and
Yeah.
it's wonderful. It's really wonderful to see you. I want to tell people when Jamie goes into the woods, I want to say a little bit about you. Jamie's one of these people who can do anything,
Yeah.
and it seems to me she can fix the truck, she can do all these things. And one of the things she does is she knows all the herbs. She walks in the woods. She knows all the plants. She knows what you can eat. She knows what you can't eat. She's always putting stuff on Facebook of something that everyone else thinks is a weed, and she says, "Wow, I'm going to make soup out of this. I'm going to make tea out of this. I'm going to, do these things." And I think it's very interesting that Jamie, who has so much knowledge of the woods, I go into the woods and I see trees, flowers, hear a bird. Jamie knows all this stuff, and in some sense, that's why she can have this big don't know. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. I totally get that.
So it's like this don't know is not antithetical to knowledge. It allows the world to come in. It allows us to learn. It allows us to see what's there. And when we have this don't know, that means that we understand that our knowledge is always incomplete. There's always something more. And that what we do know, it's like we've taken something that can't be boxed and we put it in a box and we understand that that box is artificial. So thank you. Thank you very much for saying that. I want to also put in a plug for formal practice. Um, there are a lot of things people have in their lives that make that when we're in difficult times that allow a kind of ease and allow us to lessen distress. And for many people, I know for me also, Stan and I go out to the wetlands a lot. Although with the current hot weather, it's getting kind of hard to do that. So going out in nature is one thing people do. Music, art, whatever it is that, a lot of people are doing really serious cooking these days. And whatever it is that gives you ease, I want to remind everyone that Zen practice is not about having ease. It's about facing yourself in a certain way. And so I encourage everyone to do all these other things, but not as a substitute for Zen practice. You know, prostrations, chanting, sitting, these are practices that change us in certain ways that these other activities don't. So I encourage you to do these other things, but I also want to also encourage people, and this is sort of getting back to what Todd was talking about, even if it's just, it's the smallest thing, the smallest, like 3 prostrations, 4 great vows, 1 minute of sitting, whatever it is, to touch the Dharma in a formal way every day. So thank you very much, Jamie, for your comments. And I see someone is unmuted. If you would, do you have something to say, Margaret?
I do. Christina, I just wanted to make an announcement, a practice announcement. Christina and I are going to be offering weekly on Fridays, probably at 6:30, Jijang Bosal chanting. Actually, we're probably just going to do the weekly memorial ceremony. We've been talking about it, and then John Lewis died, and so we're going to start that this Friday, and I'll send out an email about that.
Okay, thank you. Is there a web page where we could find the information that you'll be posting it?
We'll be posting it on our Facebook page,
Okay.
on our Talk Zen Facebook page. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're on Facebook, Tallgrass Zen. Tallgrass, one word, Zen, one word?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
We're going to start that.
Thank you. And I don't know if everyone knows that we've been doing Jijang Bosal and Kwansin Bosal and or Jijang Bosal chanting every Wednesday, and Thousand Eyes and Hands Sutra also. So unless someone has a really urgent question, we're kind of out of time. I'd like to see if you could stop recording, please.